Imagine standing in a line that snakes around a damp stone block in Galicia. It is not a queue for a concert or a new piece of technology, but for a piece of paper written in Latin. The air smells of rain, ozone, and the distinct dusty odor of worn-out synthetic fabric. This is the Pilgrim's Office in Santiago de Compostela in late 2024. If you listen to the hum of the crowd, you will hear a dozen languages: Korean, German, Portuguese, English, all merging into a single excited drone. This scene violently disrupts the image we have nurtured for centuries: the lone wanderer, staff in hand, walking in silence under the vast starlit canopy of the Milky Way. That silence is harder to find now. We are witnessing a phenomenon that would baffle a medieval bishop. Over 500,000 people arrived here in the last year alone, shattering every record in the pilgrimage's 1,000-year history. The ancient path to the tomb of St. James has become a modern highway. To understand this explosion, we have to look at where these people are coming from, not geographically, but spiritually. The statistics tell a fascinating story. A vast and growing number of these walkers identify as non-religious. They are not here to shorten their time in purgatory. They are here because they are burnt out. The modern world is noisy, demanding, and relentlessly fast. In response, the Camino has transformed from a Catholic imperative into a secular therapy. But this therapeutic surge has created its own paradox. The route is now an ecosystem of its own, particularly the final 100 kilometers starting from the town of Sarria. This is the minimum distance required to earn the official Compostela certificate, and as a result, Sarria has become a bottleneck, a bustling funnel where the solitude of the long-distance walker collides with the energy of the weekend tourist. It is easy to be cynical about this traffic jam on the Holy Road. We might see the crowded cafes, the vending machines, and the pre-booked luggage transport services as a dilution of the sacred. But that would be a shallow reading of what is happening. This mass migration is a symptom of a deep collective hunger. We are seeing a sociological reaction to the saturation of our digital lives. When every moment of our day is colonized by notifications and algorithms, the simple linear act of walking from point A to point B becomes a radical act of rebellion. The congestion on the trail is proof of how desperate we are to reconnect with the physical world. The sheer volume of bodies moving west across Spain suggests that we are not looking for a miracle in the traditional sense, but for a way to feel human again. The crowd itself, with its blistered feet and shared exhaustion, is a testament to a new kind of congregation, one that gathers not under a church roof, but under the open sky, seeking something that our screens can never provide. To truly grasp the magnitude of this shift, we must step back from the modern tumult of the Pilgrim's Office and descend into the quiet, dusty archives of the 12th century. In the medieval mind, the motivation for this journey was terrifyingly practical. You did not walk across Europe to find yourself or to clear your head. You walked to save your soul from eternal fire. The concept was the plenary indulgence, a remission of the temporal punishment due to sin. In an age where the afterlife was as real and tangible as the soil underfoot, the Camino was a legal transaction with the divine. You paid with your sweat, your blood, and often your life, and in return, the church granted you a shorter sentence in purgatory. It was a grim, perilous undertaking, documented in the Codex Calixtinus, a manuscript often called the world's first travel guide. This text didn't recommend the best tapas bars. It warned of poisoned rivers, fierce bandits, and dishonest innkeepers waiting to slit a pilgrim's throat for a few coins. Compare that visceral danger with the modern infrastructure of the albergue. Today, the yellow arrows guide us safely from hostel to hostel, where the primary dangers are snoring bunkmates and bedbugs. The physical stakes have lowered, but the psychological stakes have arguably risen. This brings us to a profound theological pivot. The Compostela certificate, once a judicial document proving you had paid your penance, has morphed into a souvenir of personal resilience. It hangs on office walls next to university degrees, a marker of an identity constructed through effort. Yet the structure of the experience remains ancient. Anthropologist Victor Turner famously described pilgrimage as a liminal state, a threshold experience, where one is betwixt and between. In this state, normal social hierarchies dissolve. The CEO and the student walk the same mud, sleep in the same room, and suffer the same pains. The modern Camino has commodified this liminality. We package this time out of time as a vacation, yet the power of the ritual often breaks through the consumerist shell. Even those who come for spiritual tourism find themselves caught in the machinery of the pilgrimage. The rhythm of the days, walk, eat, sleep, repeat, strip away the complex identities we construct at home. The Compostela certificate might be just a piece of paper today, void of its supernatural power to unlock heaven's gates, but the journey to get it still demands a surrender that is rare in our controlled lives. We are trading the fear of hell for the fear of insignificance, and in the process we are rediscovering an ancient truth, that the stripping away of comfort is the first step towards seeing the world clearly. The indulgence is no longer about the afterlife, it is about reclaiming the present life from the blur of modernity. This brings us to the most enigmatic question of the modern Camino. Why do declared atheists weep when they finally stand before the cathedral in Santiago? They do not believe in the relics of St. James housed within the silver crypt. They do not subscribe to the dogmas that built the stone facade. Yet the emotional release is undeniable and overwhelming. To understand this, we must look beyond theology to the phenomenology of walking itself. Philosophers like Frederick Groh and Soren Kierkegaard have long argued that the simple, repetitive motion of walking disconnects the mind from its anxieties and reconnects it with the rhythm of existence. Kierkegaard famously wrote that he walked himself into his best thoughts, and he knew of no thought so burdensome that one could not walk away from it. In a secular age, the body has become the last sight of spiritual truth. We may doubt texts, and we may mistrust institutions, but we cannot doubt the pain in our feet or the fatigue in our legs. This physical suffering, the liturgy of the feet, replaces the ancient prayers. The blisters, the tendinitis, the sunburn, these are not just inconveniences, they are the price of admission to a state of clarity. In a world where we sit for 12 hours a day, engaging with intangible data, the brute reality of moving the body across a landscape is a revelation. It satisfies a deep, cognitive need for tangible progress. You look back and see the mountain you crossed. You look forward and see the valley you must traverse. It is real in a way that an email inbox never is. This is the modern resonance. We are creating secular saints, people who have sought purification not through grace but through grit. And perhaps most surprisingly, the crowd itself, that massive crush of 500,000 people, becomes part of this new ritual. We tend to fetishize solitude, but the Camino teaches a different lesson. It forces a shared vulnerability. When you limp into a town and a stranger offers you a chair or a bandage, a barrier breaks down. This nonverbal communion, this shared struggle against gravity and distance, creates a fleeting community that feels more authentic than our carefully curated social networks. The Camino paradox is resolved here. We walk nowhere effectively in a loop or a line to a city we could reach by plane in an hour, but in walking nowhere, we return to ourselves. The God at the end of the road might be silence, but it is a silence we have earned, and in that silence we finally hear our own breath, syncing with the breath of the 500,000 others who felt the same call to leave the chair and hit the road.